You look at the resurrection, that gives you the power to fulfill the desire. Have you got desire to live for God? Have you got power? You've got both. You've got the desire to live for God and the power to live for God. My friend, you can live like this. I will extol thee, O Lord, for thou hast lifted me up and has not made my foes to rejoice over me. I will extol. I will extol thee, O Lord, for thou hast lifted me up and hast not made my foes to rejoice over me. Oh Lord my God, I cry unto thee, and thou hast healed me, and thou hast healed me. Oh, I will extol thee, O Lord. Colossians 3:12. Therefore, as the elect of God, holy and beloved, put on tender mercies, kindness, humility, meekness, long suffering, bearing with one another, and forgiving. Notice the word, forgiving one another. If anyone has a complaint against another, even as Christ forgave you, so you also must do. Forgiving. What is more difficult? Doing a miracle or forgiving? What is more difficult? Some people say, they say, I've forgiven you, but they'll rake up all your, they'll get historical on you, like we said, If you ask them and say, but you forgave me, right? They'll say, yes, I forgave you, but I didn't forget it. Forgive is different. Forget is. What a nice argument. So we can forgive, but not forget. Is that what Paul is saying? Look there. He says in verse 13, forgiving one another, even as Christ forgave you, you also must do. How did Christ forgive? Did he say, well, I forgive you, I put your sins into the depths of the sea, but when I need it, I will rake it up back and just bring it up and show it. Is that what Christ is doing? No, my friend. If it's forgiven by Christ, then it's forgotten by, that's it. After that, he treats you as though you never sinned. That is only forgiving, you see. Is this easy to do, you think? You think this is easier to do than performing a miracle or raising Lazarus from the dead? What is easier, my friend? What is more difficult? Let me tell you a true story. Maybe you may know the incident. A missionary went to another country. From his home country, he went to another country and with his family and started doing missionary work, helping out, doing gospel work, but more social work. Mainly helping out lepers, people suffering from leprosy. And for many years they did that work in that other country. He left his home country, went to a new place, not knowing the language, nothing. Raised his family there, wife and 2 children, one 9-year-old boy, 11-year-old boy. Doing ministry for God, giving up his life for the improvement of these lepers, their condition. One day like that, the husband and the 2 boys, 9-year-old, 11-year-old boys, they went out on ministry. They went out in a jeep and they did some work, social work, And then in the night, they didn't have a good place to stay because it was deep in the villages probably, So what they did is they slept in the jeep itself. And as they were sleeping, people who were against Christianity, against this type of work, right, hated Christianity, came in the night as they were sleeping and put chains around the jeep and tied up the jeep so that they cannot open the door and then lit the jeep on fire. True story. Right? Lit the jeep on fire. Inside are the husband and 2 young boys, 9-year-old, 11-year-old boy. They burned to death. They were burnt alive. After the incident, they went to the wife. The wife was not there that time. She didn't go with them that day. She was at home. They went to the wife and said, "What do you say about this?" You know what she said? She said, "I forgive my family's killers." People were shocked. What? I forgive. They just burnt alive your husband and your 9-year-old boy and your 11-year-old boy, and you say, "I forgive." Don't tell me doing a miracle is harder, because it ain't. Forgiving, for that woman to forgive is harder, my friend. How can you forgive? They burnt to death your family. They burnt alive your family. How can you forgive? How can that woman forgive? I'll tell you how. She's got resurrection power inside her. That is what is enabling her to. Otherwise, you cannot forgive. Some people say, even the world can do these type of things. They can stay away from, this type of lust. They can, manage their anger or whatever. Wrong, my friend. The way the Bible puts it, the world cannot do it. Cannot. You cannot forgive unless you have experienced, like this you cannot forgive. Unless you have experienced Christ's forgiveness. Cannot. What is more difficult? What is harder? See, we think miracle is harder. This is only harder. Verse 14. But above all these things, put on love, which is the bond of perfection. He says, put on love. You think to love is easy? Go read 1 Corinthians 13 if you think love is easy, They got the wrong idea of love. I'm glad that Pastor started the series on love, But love keeps no record of wrongs, 1 Corinthians 13 says. Love never fails. Love never gives up. Love is not easy, see? And then, you go to verse 19. Husbands, love. After saying put on love there, he comes down to verse 19 and says, husbands, love your wives and do not be bitter toward them. Let me ask you, what is more difficult? Doing a miracle or husband loving his wife? Seriously, think about it. Now, people who say, no, of course, miracle only. This is nothing. Loving your wife is nothing. It's very easy. I'm doing it every day. Either they're lying, okay, or they don't know what kind of love Paul is talking about. Paul is not just talking about some worldly love. No. In another place in Ephesians 5, he says, as Christ loves the church, husbands, love your. Husbands, don't love your wives with any love. No, with Christ's kind of love. How much love did Christ show the church? He gave up his very life for the church. But today, we husbands sometimes can't give up our egos. He was giving up his life. We have trouble giving up our. No, my friend, this is not easy. If you want to love like Christ loved, this is a whole different level. This is the kind of things that God wants you to do with resurrection power. He wants you to show that power where? In your family, in your home. I thought, this power needs to be taken to the biggest hospital, biggest graveyard, show it out there in the, where everybody can see it, No, he says, show it in your home. Show it to your family. Show it to your wife. What is more difficult? See, we got the wrong idea. The problem is we are impressed with the outward show. What? Show. We like the show. See, when a miracle happens, outside it's something great. Yeah, it looks, right? When somebody gets healed or Lazarus walking out of the grave, it's a great show, right? It makes for a, grand show. Everybody sees that and they're stunned. And, that's something great. We like the outward display. Right? Somebody comes to your home. You don't have too much time to clean. What do? You just clean the areas where they are going to be. The hall, just this much. or see, we like to clean only the places that are needed. I'm talking about maybe myself, shall we say, okay? Not trying to accuse anybody. Maybe there are some people who are very spick and span, clean, like, they it's their obsession and hobby to clean. There may be some people like that. But other people, most people, I'm just saying, if you go to a place and they're very, very clean, get a little suspicious. Go try opening a cupboard. Everything will just fall out like that, You know what I mean? We like the outward, whatever is seen, we like to keep it good. We are not so concerned about what is inside. We are very concerned about our outward appearance. How many times? 100 times we're in front of the mirror. Some people are walking around with combs in their pockets. And that's very good. I'm also looking for a comb, But I'm saying we give importance to the outward things, right? Sometimes what happens, we give more importance to the outward than the inward. So that's why we get impressed with the miracle, the outward display, show of power. I'm not saying show is wrong. No. Even God knows how to show off, shall we say. But I'm going somewhere, okay? Even sometimes the churches, they're trying to project a certain image. They say, you ask them how many people come to your church, they will say, 50,000 people come to our church. But actually, if you see, there won't even be 20,000 there. Numbers are all just, one fellow, joking about this said, about 10% in the church membership data never actually existed, Because a lot of churches, they will hike up their numbers, just trying to be in competition with one another. If that church says 20,000, well, I want to say 30,000, If they say 50,000 came to the meeting, we want to say 1 lakh came to the meeting. Just put up an impressive outward, We like to hold the big meeting, have the big crowd, take the big photo, display it on. We like the show. And even, you think God doesn't know how to show off. If anybody can show off, my friend, it's God, right? But what I'm trying to say is, what happens, we put our eyes only on the outward, not on the inward. You look at David. When David was selected, what happened? Samuel came to his father's home. David's father had 7 sons. Only 6 were there on the scene. They never even brought David. Why? Means, outward appearance, David was not king material. They didn't think David could ever be king. They thought these 6 sons could be far better. God said, man looks at the appearance, but God looks at the heart. See, God looks more at just the outward appearance. It's not like that. You see, if anybody could show off, God could have showed off. But you know what? God keeps it down a little bit. Let me show you how. Just take the resurrection of Jesus. After raising from the dead, Jesus could have appeared to so many people, but he didn't. He appeared to the women, and then he appeared to the 12 disciples. He appeared to 500 people in one time, 1 Corinthians 15 says. Then he appeared to more, right? But what I'm saying is, why didn't he go and appear before the king in Rome, to Caesar? Why didn't he make a big show and say, I'm raised from the dead. I am king, you are not. Jesus could have easily done that. Why didn't he appear before the whole world and say, look, I am Jesus, I am raised up from the... Instead of doing that, he was just with his disciples for 40 days training them. When he ascended to heaven, hardly anybody saw him. Only his disciples saw him go up. Nobody else. Jesus could have made a great show, you see. Take the resurrection of the believer. See, why did not God... See, God only raised up our spirit from the dead, right? In our spirit, in our inner man, we are raised up from the dead. But in our outer man, in our bodies, we are not raised up from the dead. That will happen only in Jesus' second coming. But what I'm saying is, it would have been far better, I thought, if God simply raised me fully, like he raised Jesus. One shot. When I got saved, imagine if I was raised up like Jesus. It will be far easier to preach. Jesus, the kind of body Jesus received, all the doors are shut. He can appear in the room with all the doors shut. That's the kind of body Jesus received after the resurrection. Imagine if I had a body like that, People would actually listen to me, I could go into a stadium or something, appear right in the center and say, look. They'll all just, they'll just look. They'll pay attention. Where did this guy come from? Just appeared on the scene like that. I could appear in a closed room and say, look, I'm Jeevan and I've been raised from the dead. You know how you want this to happen to you? Listen to the gospel. You need to hear about how Jesus came, lived, died, and rose again. Now I rose again with him. You can also be. It would have been far better. for gospel work, for evangelism. People will respect us more. People will be afraid of us. Oh my goodness, he has this kind of body. But God didn't do that. He only raised up the Spirit and he said, we'll keep the show for the end. It's not that God won't show off. He will show off. Trust me. You people think people will show off? Well, there's a big show off coming in the second coming. When Jesus appears on the clouds, you have never seen a show like that. With the archangel, the sound of the trumpet, the armies of heaven, the angel armies of heaven, and all the dead in the graveyards will be raised up from the dead. Have you seen a show like that? Show is coming, but God put it off till the end. That's what I want you to see. There is a pattern for the resurrection life. It starts inward and then goes outward. It starts in a hidden way and then becomes revealed. God seems to always do things like this. The seed starts small. Nobody can see it, right? And then slowly it grows up. Everything is like that. See? What am I trying to say? See, some people want to take this type of teaching, resurrection power, and they're saying, well, we need to go and do great miracles and just show the world what kind of power we've got, Wrong. What do you need to do? You need to start inside, go out. You need to respect God's pattern, right? See, you see, Jesus himself, sometimes he does miracles and then he'll say, don't tell anybody. Have you seen that in the Gospels? Jesus will say, he'll do a miracle and then he'll tell that fellow, make sure you don't tell anybody. Have you ever seen anybody do that today? After a miracle happens, don't tell anybody. No, they splash it on the magazine, in the Facebook, in everywhere, you see. No, but Jesus is saying, don't tell. He's saying there's a time and place for that, not now, right? You go pay attention to your life. I healed you. Go and set right your own. See, what I'm saying is everything in life, God seems to respect and honor this pattern. He's the one who set it up. He honors it. He respects it. He likes it. I wonder, God, you could have raised me up fully. The whole world would have been impressed by the believers. But God says, no, I don't want to do it that way. I want to keep the show for the end. Let's start small and then go. Let's start inside, go outside. Let's start inner and then go outer. Let's start hidden and then go revealed. It's like, pregnant woman, when she gets pregnant, you can't see that she's pregnant. It doesn't show off, right? There's no bump. It's just normal. Then slowly it grows. I heard about a woman, who got pregnant after many years, not being able to bear a child, and then she got pregnant. In her joy, she went and told many people, I'm pregnant. As soon as she got pregnant, I'm pregnant. Then an older, more mature woman called her to the side and said, don't go telling everyone you're pregnant. Just tell 2-3 people who you are very important to you. But as the time goes, everybody will know that you are. Resurrection power is like that. First, where should you show it? Not in the hospital, not in the graveyard. Not to some grand way. No, show it when nobody is watching. When you are alone watching TV, when you are alone on the internet, that is the time you need to show the resurrection power. When you are facing temptation and nobody is looking, that time show the resurrection. After that, where are you supposed to show the resurrection power? Inside to outside, remember? Show it in your family. Show it in your what? Family. Show it to your wife. Use the resurrection power to love your wife. See? It wonderfully says in Colossians 3, verse, 19. Do not be bitter toward them. Husbands, do not be bitter toward. That means what? Don't come and take out all the tension on the wife. That's what it means. All the tension in the work. Don't come home and just unload it on, some people think wife is like the stress reliever, You just unload all the tension on her, That may be okay for unbelievers, you see, but God is calling believers to a higher kind of life. He's saying, no, if you want to unload something, unload it on me, not on your, cast your burdens onto not on the wife, See, treat your wife correctly, not harshly. Don't be bitter. Don't, speak rashly and harshly to your, that's what he's saying, see. What am I saying? Show the power when you are alone, then show the power in your home, in your family, to your wife first. Wives, show your power to, what power? Resurrection power. Use it to live. Use it to live a family life properly first. That's what it means. What should you use this resurrection power for? First, to yourself when nobody's watching, and then to your family. When you love your wife, can you imagine if you love your wife like this? Can you imagine what a home would be like if a husband loves his wife like Christ loves the church? Can you imagine how that can work out? It's hard to even imagine. That's the kind of life God is calling you to, my friend. That is why He gave resurrection. Some husbands say, well, tell the wife to submit first, Then I will. Well, is the church submitting very much to the Lord? They are not always fully submitting and all. But is Christ still showing the love? Yes. See, very difficult. But you can do it with, show the power at home first. It's easy for me to preach here. Hard to show the power in the traffic signal, but hard to show it at home. But that's what God wants you to do. That's why He gave so much power to show it in these places where everybody thinks it's impossible, where everybody thinks you cannot live a family life like this. He wants you to live a successful family life with this kind of power. Resurrection power. And then we can worry about miracles and impressing the world. You know what? I think, it amazes me, Peter and Paul and these guys, the apostles, did they not believe in miracles? No, they did miracles left and right, But you read the New Testament, not one place do they say, this is how you need to impress the world. Go and do a bunch of miracles and pull them in. No. They all say, live your life in a different way. Slowly that will pull people in. See, there is a pattern to this, you see. Start inside and go outside. We got the power. Everybody say, we got the power. This is hard, see. This is not easy living. This is hard, but it can be done with resurrection. You can live your family life like this with resurrection power. I don't have the time to go to wives or children, but you read it and meditate on it. See, God has given us both the desire and the power to live for Him. Desire and power. It's not enough if you have just desire, you need power also. We all want to live for God, right? We all desire to live for Him, right? We all desire to please Him. Well, aren't you thankful that God Himself has given us power to please Him? Right? I'll close with this example, Let's imagine we have these two boys here, right? Imagine because I'm preaching like this, you may be wondering, oh, this is like that holiness preaching, Oh, be holy, be holy, be holy. No, it's not like that. In some places they're preaching saying, be holy, be holy, be holy. No, we're not doing that. In fact, if you notice, 3 weeks I spoke on the power, and then last week only I'm coming to this. So, it's like this, it's like telling this young man, give this boy 1 kilo laddu. Telling him no reason, but just telling him, give him 1 kilo laddu, give him 1 kilo laddu, give him one. Preachers sometimes are saying, be holy, be holy, be holy. What are you doing? Be holy, Give 1 kilo laddu. People find it very difficult to be holy. But if I call him aside and tell him, you know what, that day, he actually gave your family 10 kilo laddu. If I call him like that and tell him like that, right? This other person, he gave you 10 kilos. So now that's why I'm telling you, give him 1 kilo. Now, okay, he's thinking, yeah, I want to. Because he gave me 10 kilos, I want to give him. See, the desire comes. That's how it is. You see, when you look at the cross, when you look at the love of God displayed on the cross, and you see how much God has loved you, He's given up His life. He didn't give you 10 kilo laddu, He gave you His life. See? He gave up His life for you. He has blessed you so much. When you look at all that, what happens? A desire to live for Him comes. But a desire alone is not enough. Some people, they will only work the desire. They will say, how much God has done for you? What are you doing for Him? I'm not trying to say like that. How God gave, Jesus died for you. What are you doing for Him? Can't even live for Him properly, See, we get guilty when preachers say like that, right? Because the preachers are only, many of them emphasizing only that desire. We have the desire because God has done so much. We have the desire, but we fail because of our weaknesses. That's like telling the boy, Okay, this boy gave you 10 kilos, so now you give him 1 kilo. So now he's got a desire to give him 1 kilo. But desire alone is not enough. He needs some money, right? Imagine if he doesn't have any money, right? Then if only wanting to give him 1 kilo laddu is not enough. He needs some money, then only he can fulfill that desire. So imagine I call him and I say, listen, go buy him 1 kilo. Here's the money for that. Go buy. Now he has the desire and the money power. It's like that. When you look at you want desire to live for God like this, look at the cross. Look at God's love. You will get a burning desire to live for God because God has done so much. But desire alone is not enough. You need power. For that you look where? The resurrection. You look at the resurrection. That gives you the power to fulfill the desire. Have you got desire to live for God? Have you got power? You've got both. You've got the desire to live for God and the power to live for God. My friend, you can live like this. More than I could hope or dream of, you have your favor on me. One day in the house of God is better than 1,000 days in the world. So blessed, I can't contain it. So much God give it away. Your love taught me to live now. You are more than enough for me. More than I could hope. More than I could hope or dream of. You put your favor on me. One day in the house of God is better than 1,000 days in the world. So blessed, I can't contain it. So much you gotta give it away. Your love has taught me to live now. You are more than so blessed, I can't contain it. So much you gotta give it away. Your love has taught me to